Hi there, I'm Mike Shope. Hello from Hawk. Sun is out just north of Buffalo today, but the world here is an ice rink and it's a cold wind, so we'll keep it inside. We'll talk last year's rookie running backs, what to do, your Marshawn Lloyds, Braylon Allen, Estime, Ray Davis. Is there some rule of thumb here? Get into Travis Hunter and talk some Niners and Chiefs receivers. Pete in for Pat today. Do we give Pete a chance to breathe off his 2-hour stream that he's just completed, the best ball of breakfast? I don't think so. He knows what to do. Our heroes, Pete in for Pat, Davis Maddock. I'm Mike. Thanks for being along. ADP Chasing, Monday, February 17th, 2025.
ADP Chasing is for when you watch Ship Chasing, you go, these guys are just football guys.
And the targets per outrun leagues, that's going to be really nice.
Actually, back in if it's Ashane.
Stare into our crystal ball. Close your eyes. All your entries are going to lose anyway.
Yeah, that's fair.
This is a Deuce Vaughn show.
It's anti-cabal. It's the best ball thought leaders. I'm obviously lying to some degree because, I have a lot of both of these guys.
It's the most disgusting pick you can make. But, man.
Someone maxed out the war room.
It's only 4. You did it. You did it in a week.
I know. Amazing. Feats of strength.
You know what? That actually reminded me because that's the one contest that's close to filling, and I just did my first 2. I might have to.
I was gonna say I
gotta hop in 4 slows right now.
Yeah,
or one fast one right now.
No,
I can't join though. I can't join.
I would never multitask during a show on these airwaves, unlike maybe another one of these co-hosts.
I mean, how dare anyone come to the sanctity of the Ship Chasing channel and, God forbid, be doing anything else at the same time? I am going to go do these slows before I forget. Thank you, Peter.
Yeah. If you guys want in, I'm in the next 4 war rooms. You can watch me flounder around there in the slow drafts.
Why I didn't say hold one back after, making this announcement. If only I had one more bullet. Pete, Kelly Stauffer, Colorado State, 6th overall in the 87 draft, quarterback. Your quarterbacks, Colorado State, there's not a lot. Stauffer, Moses Moreno,
Bradley
Caleb
Van
Haney,
Pelt.
Bradley Van Pelt. Stauffer, St. Louis Cardinals. I know that was a thing. Didn't sign. Played a little bit for Seattle, but that's about the best you can do there. It's not your team, but it's your state. So.
Yeah, for people who don't know, Mike's referencing at the end of my best ball breakfast, I took Torrey Horton, and it was revealed to me that he was a Colorado State alum. And so then I had to go through the history of Colorado State alum, which basically boils down to Trey McBride and Michael Gallup.
No, there was a guy. There was a guy before Gallup too, who. All right, now I gotta go.
Well, Rashad Higgins was the other one.
That's who it was.
He was good. He won the Bolitnikoff and.
I was gonna say that by good I meant good in a Rotovizian sense, where theoretically he was good and could have been good, but then chose not to be good in the NFL.
See, I'm trying to really fill in for Pat by reminiscing and naming just random guys from yesteryear. So
Olabisi Johnson, famously started over Justin Jefferson in the first 2 games of Justin Jefferson's career.
I'll give you a fairly obscure name from yesteryear. We can talk about Amari Cooper. Didn't go to Colorado State. But Pete, you were just saying his ADP is wild. You mean way too high?
Well, yeah. I mean, I passed on him 20 picks past ADP. It's just Amari Cooper was losing snaps to Mac Hollins in the playoffs. And I got to draft him for week 17 in 2020.
He did get a target on the highest leverage snap of the Buffalo Bills season though.
3rd and 10.
Famously did get targeted on 3rd and 10.
This is what you as a streamer. I know Davis has uttered these same words, and I will utter it. If Amari Cooper is what beats me in 2025, then so be it.
Sometimes you got to just tip your cap. You cannot. You actually cannot cover every multiverse of the National Football League in 150 big board drafts. You have to make some tough choices.
Amari Cooper, who a year younger, crushed us in 2023. 2024, he goes to Josh Allen's team and leaves Joe Flacco's team, and we get buried. And that play was a pass behind the line of scrimmage because that's all the Bills could do by the end of the season is throw the ball sideways. Weird.
So what is your actual boots on the ground, Bills under the microscope take on Amari Cooper? Would you take him in a draft?
No, not to play for the Bills,
He's
but
not
I think
gonna be
there
a
is.
Bill.
I think there is some chance of that. Talking to Mike Giannity of Spot Track last week on WGR, he's like, look, no, the wide receiver free agent class is bad. I mean, it's very dusty. So what happens? But teams have needs. They want receivers, and you have Cooper and Diggs and Hopkins and Brandon Cooks and Mike Williams and so on. So he said to me, I don't know if it was a throwaway line, but he said $15 million a year for Cooper.
Oh my God, I'll take the under. If there is a market on that, or the team that does it is going to be you know what? Maybe the Raiders would give him $15 million a year.
Just come full circle.
Yeah,
Back home.
just bring it all the way back around. Go back to our glory days. Was he under Gruden ever? No.
He looked slow. Like there was this wrist injury that the Bills cited. He could have had surgery. Well, what's that? You could always have surgery, but he didn't.
Thing too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and they didn't ever get him off down the field. Like it just did not happen. So there's some thinking here that they would want him back because they made the trade for him and they thought they needed somebody, but I don't know. It didn't work. So I'd rather see them do, something else, but he probably plays in the league.
Yeah, he'll play like Allen Robinson still technically plays. Allen Robinson, famously number 1 overall wide receiver scoring in 2016, the Bortles year, still technically a player in the league.
So what are you guys doing anything? So I just had a Josh Allen team that I drafted. I missed out on Shadeur. I drafted Keon Coleman, and then I did take Ray Davis. But are there any other pass catchers that you're taking late for the Bills?
Kincaid, dude. Yeah. Kincaid is a 12th round pick. He was 7th amongst tight ends in targets per route run.
You've been streaming with Liam too much. How did you become Kincaid pilled?
It's because this is always what people do. People are always too emotional. The thing they just most recently saw, and they just saw him cost his team a game, and so they're like, that guy stinks.
Could you argue that people were too unemotional with Kyle Pitts' ADP?
Yes, you could. I'd argue there may be still being a little bit not emotional.
That would have been a good one to be pretty emotional about.
Fair,
I think
very fair.
The Bills always think about what's the team's incentive. It's early in the offseason. Theirs probably will be to get that right with Kincaid. They think he's talented. Season high for the year, 53 yards, 2 touchdowns totally. Has 5 touchdowns in 34 career games, including playoffs.
Their incentive with him will be to use him as cost-controlled labor and then not pick up his 5th-year option.
Well, they're not going to lead the draft at pick 30 with another pass catcher because they just did that 2 years in a row and kind of ended up nowhere with Kincaid and then Keon Coleman. So, I mean, it's not going to be Amari Cooper. Who's it going to be? Is somebody else there? Kincaid's on the field. Coleman's on the field. I think Mac Hollins comes back. But Samuel, I would have liked Samuel for you in that draft.
Samuel?
He's under contract. They're not getting rid of him. And, what do you believe? He got hurt in August and was maybe never right, but kind of his whole career.
Yeah. It is so hard just philosophically to select an older veteran in the late rounds of these drafts and not just take the mystery box wide receiver. And when I say mystery box, for me, it is a true mystery box.
I was going to say, Peter's like, Torrey Horton. Horton here's a what?
Torrey Horton like a Hall of Famer next to Curtis Samuel.
I'm using Davis's rankings when I'm drafting. You want to know how much Restrepo I have? It's a lot.
Except I don't even. That's the thing is I don't even like Xavier Restrepo in the hierarchy. It's just that the base ADP. I'm assuming because there are so many people auto drafting or using ETR ranks. The base ADP is so bad that you're sitting there. Amari Cooper's ADP is not moving. DeAndre Hopkins ADP not moving. These guys who I think are probably close to undraftable, probably should not be in the top 250. It's just so hard to. What do you do with that in your rankings? I basically have Amari Cooper and DeAndre Hopkins 40 spots behind rankings or behind their ADP.
Is show frozen for you, Davis?
I don't know.
Yes.
Where'd I go? Where did I go?
You have the most YouTube face freeze frame right now.
You just have to click and restart your video.
All right.
It'll pop right back in. Yeah.
Oh man. So I'll have to get it back on the playback, but that's gonna definitely have to be a screenshot there.
Yeah, that is really good. But like, so yeah. I'm running into this at tight end, Peter, where I just continually take Gunnar Helm or Mason Taylor or Elijah Arroyo as my tight end 3, and I'm like, I don't even know if that's good or not. Yeah. Like, how do you balance that of like, this price is clearly good and is going to change in Best Ball Mania, but at the same time, how do you balance out Chigakonkwo, who I know stinks and is not going to help me, versus Gunnar Helm, who probably is going to stink and not help me, but is also going to be a second round pick in the NFL draft? I actually don't know how to balance that.
I think it has to be the hardest for tight end, right? Because it's such a like opportunity on the field driven thing. And also it's a very hard thing to project for a draft class. So you have like all these variables that could just like literally any tight end you take late could just be a stone cold 0. Like every single one of those guys after like pick 160 has 0 within their range of outcomes. So you're like, do I take the upside? Do I take the guy who I think is going to be on the field, but might not earn targets? It doesn't feel fun clicking tight ends late.
I think there are a couple of younger veterans as opposed to rookies that are interesting. I think Jaxson Sanders is really interesting late,
He's
and
probably,
maybe Theo Johnson a little bit.
He had that foot injury, but yeah, I mean, Theo Johnson was basically Chigakonkwo. Like, he was just on the field for 80% of the snaps, never got the ball, but lots of guys never get the ball at tight end. That's why someone like Kincaid is valuable, even though we all know Kincaid is bad. No one listening to this podcast is under any aspersion that Dalton Kincaid is like an above average tight end, but he gets the ball.
I don't know if he watches, but
the thing that was weird about his season, I mean, Allen, nobody's infallible, but the uncatchable passes rate to Kincaid or just missed targets, I mean, it went down to something like 53%. He had an injury too. Like, they're just, the timing was different with Kincaid than almost anybody else Allen has had in the last 4 years. Not good.
Nick just said a really interesting name that the guy I think is getting underdrafted, Gesicki. I think that Burrow's comments, he put Gesicki in the same category as Jamar Chase and T. Higgins. He was like, I want my guys back. I want T. I want Mike, which is like, I don't think of Mike Gesicki that way, but that's pretty interesting.
Not to mention, Gesicki's target splits without T. Higgins on the field last year were gaudy. Like, he was the 1B behind Chase when Higgins was out. And then even when he did return down the stretch, he was like a big part of the offense. I like that call. What is his ADP?
Free. 19th, 20th round. He goes, it's like, I'm choosing between him or Mason Taylor or Gunnar Helm.
Okay.
Most of the time.
Oh,
yeah.
Mason Taylor, Pete. He's back.
There, who I just took.
They said in the chat he's Jason Taylor's son.
That I did learn that fun fact.
Is he really? That's well, is nepotism back? Is nepotism kind of led me down a bad road last year. So I'm wondering if we need to be back in on nepotism.
Shadeur.
Yeah. I like Shadeur more than the ball watching cabal because he's going to do something that most rookie quarterbacks can't do. He's just very accurate. It's just very hard for rookie quarterback. He just is going to complete a lot of passes. Which
what have you been getting to any of the rookie quarterbacks in drafts?
Yeah,
I got to Ward.
Yeah, Ward is good. It's just that it's so hard for me to be like, you know what I'm going to do in the third round? I'm just not going to take Mike Evans. I'm going to take a quarterback. So like, I'm just always scrambling for a quarterback. So like, I have Pete, my most drafted player is a player you have probably not heard of yet. Jaxson Dart is right now my most drafted player in the big board. Cause I'm just like pretty sure he's going to be Kenny Pickett's rookie year in the 20th round. I'll take it.
You're just, and then like just hoping that he has like a Bo Nix like season.
I mean, that's the comp is Nix.
Who drafts him at what price? Like Seattle is interesting for a mid to late first round young quarterback. The Rams might be if they move on, or even if they don't. But is the quarterback on the field?
What about the New York footballing Jets at pick 6?
Well, okay. I mean, if that happens, that's Milrow.
That is
too, right?
that is my current. That is the moonshot. That is my. If that hits, then I'll be winning. Dustin Norton just said Tyler Shuck in chat. Guys, I just for the record, maybe you guys don't watch a ton of college football or whatever. No, he's 26 years old. Never had more than 3,100 passing yards, 53 career touchdowns to 26 career interceptions. It's not happening. Tyler Shuck is not happening.
I mean, isn't it funny? I feel like we do the same song and by we, I mean kind of like the DraftNet community, the mock draft community of every year, these quarterbacks, the non-elite prospects, they're like, I have a round 2 grade on them. They're not first round picks. And then the NFL teams eventually say, to fuck with your grade, a franchise quarterback is all that matters. And even if it has only a 30% chance of hitting, we're going to take this guy with pick 10. Like, doesn't that happen every year?
I mean, Knicks and Penix.
Yeah, that's what I mean.
And that also goes both ways, because if Levis or Malik Willis, who were like early draft process, first round hopefuls, even like the day of the draft, both those guys were getting top 5 hype the day of their respective drafts, and teams didn't even bother in the first round and look at their careers. So Russell Wilson is the exception, but if it doesn't happen in the first round, you're a long shot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the draft Knicks are saying this shit. Like Todd McShay has a draftable grade on Shuck. Dane Brugler has a draftable grade on him. But like, I don't know, man. I watch a lot of football in my life. I'm not obviously a scout or anything, but like, very hard for me to imagine that guy translating. And NFL teams are so woke now to take a 26-year-old quarterback.
I think the interesting quarterbacks are the veterans that are in that same range free. That's, well, Daniel Jones, like with the number of teams that need starters, does somebody, what should the Jets do? Should the Jets reach on Jaxson Dart or Milrow? No, maybe they should. But
no, the Jets definitely, if they do not take a rookie quarterback in this class, everyone in the front office should be fired. Even if they stink, even if it's round, like if Jalen Milrow is on the clock for them in the 3rd round and they don't take him, they should just all immediately be fired, because the 1.5% chance that Milrow is an NFL starter could reinvigorate the entire franchise.
Well, I was going to say, isn't that even the only way to save face after this failed campaign of going all in as a Super Bowl? The only thing you can sell your fan base on is hope. And what's the one way to do that? With a rookie quarterback. That could be anything. Like other than that, like if you're trying to run back some like dusty thing, like, man, you're going to lose so much goodwill as if they haven't already lost it.
100%.
Does the coach have time for it, right? If the guy just needs a lot, does Aaron Glenn, depends on sort of who the guy is. I guess, but Daniel Jones, not the Jets. Tyrod Taylor will never get drafted in the big board. The funniest moment, this is a tough one because there were so many funny moments with the Jets season. For me was in Buffalo week 17, 40-0 in the 3rd quarter. The Bills weren't even good. Like defensively, they were kind of in shambles. 40-0. Rodgers gets sacked for a safety, picks, all of it. They take him out at 40-0. Taylor goes in, touchdown.
Yep.
So his career since he left Buffalo was starting for somebody until their rookie is ready. I don't know if that makes him draftable in this. The odds are against it, but he's interesting to me. Trying to predict who the starting quarterbacks will be. I mean, Darnold will start for somebody. I don't know about Jones, maybe not Taylor, but there are more teams that need guys than that.
I believe Daniel Jones signed an extension with Minnesota. I'm trying to look it up. Spotrac just put Daniel Jones's contract page behind the paywall, which I've never ran into the paywall on Spotrac before. So now I'm going to look at Daniel Jones over the cap, but I'm trying to remember.
That might be the most flattering moment of Daniel Jones's career for Spotrac to put me behind the paywall because everyone was interested in my contract.
He is not. So Daniel Jones is a free agent. I mean, you could certainly see Daniel Jones starting for the Raiders or whatever. I mean, it's very hard to say. But I mean, Russell Wilson, I don't know who, but Russell Wilson's starting for someone. Probably not the Steelers. Could be the Raiders. Could be the Jets. I mean, he's starting for some. I would say he's more likely to start than Rodgers is. Like now that Rodgers is done with the Jets, I'm done taking Rodgers. I think I took him once with Garrett Wilson or something, but I am. Yeah, Rodgers is unlikely to play.
So I assume if you're not taking, you said you're not taking much of the early quarterbacks. I assume you have a ton of 3 QB builds.
Almost exclusively, yeah. Because I mean, it's a little bit of a fallacy that our brain draws these really easy lines of like, well, shit, I got no idea which wide receiver is the right one to take here, but I know Russell Wilson, Jaxson Dart, Kirk Cousins. These guys are at least going to be getting points. They're at least going to be on the field.
Yeah, although couldn't you? There's still fragility with those guys as far as starting and you can't guarantee 17 games once you get to that range of the draft.
No, you can't guarantee 17 games, and obviously you can't guarantee that they're there in the money weeks either. But they are, I think, much more likely to add points to my roster than Darius Slayton is. Darius Slayton could easily not sign a contract, I think.
What's your percentage split of 2 tight ends versus 3 tight ends?
Pretty heavy on 3. It's like 3-6-8-3 is like the meta. You just move the 2 extra roster spots that the big board gives you into quarterback and tight end. That's
generally what I would like to do. I mean, like today I did a 2 quarterback team, Allen and Stroud, and then I did a 2 tight end team, Kittle and Ingram, or maybe I tacked on Mason Taylor. Actually, I did tack on Mason Taylor. So yeah, the 2 quarterbacks is tough, but I think with Allen up top, it was probably fine.
I mean, dude, the bye week bros are going to come for you before the bye weeks even begin. They're going to be like, dude, aren't you worried? Aren't you worried your double elite quarterback build? They're both going to have the same bye. Aren't you worried, Peter? And you might be worried.
Who is your most drafted player through however many drafts you've done?
I'm pretty sure it's Jaxson Dart. It might be Kendre Miller.
Oh, what is his price? I didn't even see him on the board today when I was drafting.
He is the running back 60. Drafts completed. Most drafted player. No, it's Xavier Worthy. Xavier Worthy, LaQuint Allen, Jaxson Dart, Kendre Miller, Ollie Gordon are all my players that I have over 30% of.
There it goes. There it goes. Xavier Worthy, some things might never die.
No, I mean, he's Xavier. Look, I like Jackson Smith and Jigba, man. He shouldn't be going after Worthy.
Yeah, I mean the Xavier Worthy's awesome. I do think the projection things are going to probably break in JSN's favor more than they will in Worthy's, depending on how the Rice thing shakes out. But Worthy definitely has a higher ceiling.
Well, that is inside the that's inside big board. Is that the reporting on Rashee Rice's injury has been bad? Like all the updates. Hayden actually. Shout out my boy Hayden Winks did some research on LCL and PCL tears, and it's pretty bad actually. It's like a harder recovery than ACL. And remember, they delayed the surgery like a month because they I think they thought, oh, he's gonna be back for the playoffs, and then turns out no, he definitely was not back. This Whittington rise. I mean, this is as bad as it gets, man.
Yeah, Mike, you're back here. Why don't you take us through? We just pulled up some of the we started talking about ADP, so I figure let's get into some of these biggest risers. And David's just mentioned Xavier Worthy. The steam might be coming from inside the house here with this ADP.
Yeah, but I'm buying in on Worthy. I mean,
hey,
Davis. Well, am I allowed to say it was broadcast? The Brian Thomas Jr. comp from last week, highly controversial, but
yeah, no, people did not like that, man. People really did not like. What if Xavier Worthy just had the same target profile as Brian Thomas Jr., which maybe is more likely than I think people want to say.
The question is, again, sort of borrowing from you, is Kansas City now, after that loss, ready to get serious? And really after the whole season. And that it's a pretty good starting point if Rice gets healthy with Worthy and Rice. And maybe, there's a Hollywood Brown or someone else, Devontae Adams, whoever else might get added to that. But did they learn a lesson from this year? I don't know the answer to that. I mean, they won the 1 seed, 15 games, another Super Bowl. Maybe they throw their hands up and say Philadelphia was just too good. But we'd want from the Chiefs to sort of get back to who they used to be. And if that happens, and if Kelsey's done, then Worthy is in a great spot for what, 4th round?
I mean, the thing with Worthy and with the Chiefs in general is like, I don't think they ever were like, you know what, let's just dick around as much as possible. It was literally just trying to survive. Andy Reid spends all offseason designing this offense. Week 1 of the preseason, Hollywood Brown, who I think from the 4 games he played, and we can clearly extrapolate, was supposed to be a big part of the offense, injures his shoulder. They're like, okay, he's gonna be back in week 1. Oh, no, season-ending surgery, not gonna be back. Okay, we're gonna build the whole offense out of Rashee Rice while Xavier Worthy is kind of getting up. Nope, Rashee Rice, our quarterback, detonated a nuclear bomb in his knee. Guess we got to replace that. Okay, we're gonna be a running team with Pacheco. We're gonna play P. Ryan on 3rd downs. We're gonna use this Carson Steele guy for sure. Oh, nope, Isaiah Pacheco broke his leg. Okay, we drafted this rookie left tackle where our pass protection is going to be better. We solved the problem spot. Nope. He's the worst left tackle in the NFL. We got to move a guard to left tackle. I think the sliding doors of all that stuff was just like, they were just trying to breathe, man. They were literally just trying to get to the next week. And if they are just kind of more healthy as a group, I think it's going to look a lot more serious.
I wonder what their post-game coaches meetings would have sounded like week after week, beating Carolina on a field goal at the gun, beating Denver on the block field goal, beating the Raiders when the quarterback wasn't ready for the snap. Reed's in there with a cigar and his feet up. Like, are you guys kidding me? Is this real? Like, we can't lose. Like, we're not doing anything, and we just literally cannot lose. And then they get the bye. They get week 18 off. They get the bye. They get the Texans, and they get a Bills team that can't figure out how to finish. They come up with 2 or 3 plays that they weren't ready for, and they win again. And then Philadelphia seemed like maybe that should have been obvious. Well, I like Philly big in that game, but yeah, we'd love to see the Chiefs kind of get real next year. And again, Worthy is in as good a spot to benefit from that as anybody, easily.
Yeah.
So the Xavier Worthy ADP rise, that's very self-explanatory. Dude exploded down the stretch, exploded in the Super Bowl. These Niners ADPs, I assume this is all related to Deebo Samuel potentially moving on.
And a report from The Athletic, I think on February 5th, that Brandon Ayuk's ACL recovery, he's like very unlikely to be ready for week 1. That the team and they said I forget the exact wording. I think it was like it'd be a pleasant surprise if he was back by week 1, or they're not expecting him to be back week 1 or whatever. So sounds like they're 11 personnel to start the year. Juwan Jennings, Ricky Pearsall, and perhaps Jacob Cowling, maybe old friend of the show, Chris Conley. But yeah, it sounds like much more targets available for these two.
Are you guys off Ayuk? Like early 7th? I don't think I am.
I was never an Ayuk guy to begin with, but it's like
That's right.
Fantasy football is a tough game. So you just kind of try and avoid the guys who are already hurt. It's just kind of it doesn't always work. Breece Hall, right? Guy who's already hurt. He came back, was a league one. It doesn't always work. But that's kind of my general philosophy.
I mean, I have been the Ayuk guy. I mean, this late career Juwan Jennings breakout, Ricky Pearsall looking like he's really good. George Kittle's not going away. CMC is going to still vacuum up targets. Like, he can be a good player and still be like a bad fantasy value because he's not good enough to earn targets at an insane clip over those other guys necessarily. So I do think it's an issue for him.
That is fair. That is fair. They did pay him, so they should want. And what are they going to do with Purdy? They're probably going to end up paying Purdy. So they should want to.
They're going to pay Purdy. He's going to get the GDP of a small Central African nation for sure.
Yeah,
so
no choice.
Davis Whittington is bad.
What's
so
this
like
in relation to the Whittington
Cooper Cup? Cooper Kupp getting the Cooper Kupp wanting to get traded. So here's the deal with Whittington. Really strong yards per route run in a small sample last year. It was like 202 routes. It's like 2.25 yards per route run, which is pretty strong. I actually liked him. I was drafting him last year. So I'm like, okay, could theoretically be the third guy. Ended up being Demarcus Robinson being the third guy. But you've got two layers here. The first being, one, Matthew Stafford might not be the quarterback of the Los Angeles Rams. Greg Rosenthal, who's really plugged into the Rams organization, tweeted last week, it's not being talked about enough that Matthew Stafford is likely gone from the Los Angeles Rams. To me, that means that Les Snead is telling people around him Stafford's gone, because Rosenthal would be plugged into that. So that is pretty bad, because you don't want Jordan Whittington as the slot wide receiver for
Jaxson Dart,
Sam Darnold, Tyrod Taylor is kind of the tier of guy that he would be in.
Why would they move Stafford?
He doesn't want to play there anymore. And my YouTube chat told me the reason is that Kelly Stafford is sick of it, Los Angeles. That now I don't know if these people know the answer or not, but that is what is been communicated to me. I don't know if that's true or not, but it sounds like Stafford wants out.
You see everything. Did you see her on her podcast? Or like, I'm always up for an adventure.
Not great if you want if you want Stafford to be the quarterback.
She has an uncanny ability of working her way into the headlines. You remember the thing where she talked about sleeping with the Stafford,
the Georgia backup quarterback.
The Georgia back just like make him jealous. I'm like, maybe don't air that one out on a podcast.
No, but, that was
yes. Some people can't help it.
Some people can't help it, man. It's
it's pretty as a drug.
Yeah. So you just have a lot of outs to Jordan Whittington getting 46 receptions next year. I mean, I'm sure his ADP now is this 168 is actually like fine or whatever. Yeah. But for like a couple days after, it's like, Pete, you know this happens at BR too. Like right after a news thing leaks, people oh, dude, I got to take him in the second round. So like right after the news thing, people are like, dude, Jordan Whittington, if I don't take him in the 11th, I might not get him. So I better snap him up. And I was like, okay, I'm out at that price. I think he's fine.
Yeah. I mean, the range of players going there, like, it seems hard that it would be bad. And again, for the audio listeners here, we got the biggest risers graphic on screen. None of these monstrous moves. You know, Jennings and Pearsall both up 5 picks. Xavier Worthy up 2 picks, though a little more meaningful at the earlier portion of the draft. And then Whittington is up 8 picks from, 175 to 168. So all of these are like very sweaty, underdog, newsy movements that probably don't actually put them into a range that makes it bad.
Davis, you would think the one thing I would know to do is mention like the audio listeners and read, like, I might just have a temptation to call for a break while doing that, but still, like, that would be something I would know to do. I gotta
this
get
is what happens when you have me as a guest, is that I can't help myself but snap
good.
The host, dude. I'm sorry, Mike. I'm sorry.
Hosting on YouTube is a different gig, Mike. It's not the same.
I know. I'm learning that. I learned what YouTube face meant yesterday, and maybe today it happened.
You don't even honestly. There's no good reason for you to know anything about YouTube. Honestly, keep your brain as sane as possible. There's no reason.
I know it through you guys and my son, who's 15. That's where I get my information.
Let me show you this. So Mike sent over in our Discord a photo, and he was like, if you guys need for the thumbnails, because we just have the one photo of him, and me and Davis called this out as perfect YouTube face. And Mike, you had never even heard the term YouTube face before? No,
I figured it out, though, at least to my credit. I YT face, I figured out what that meant. I was right. At least I was right.
But this is the new one, though. This is the one from earlier today when you froze. That's definitely going to end up on a thumbnail near you.
Now I know I'm among friends.
That's good. YT face.
YT face. You've got another 49ers graphic if you want it. We've kind of talked about them, and then a Chiefs one, and we always sort of go along on the Chiefs, but Kelsey's future is very much in doubt. Davis, is Noah Gray good?
No.
Okay, that's settled.
Yeah,
I mean,
no
he's
agree with
one of
it.
these tight ends that you're
He's
kind of tempted by.
He's Durham Smythe, you know. He's Gary Barnage. If the team really decides that he should get 87 targets, then sure, you will have wanted him. It seems unlikely, particularly because there are going to be a couple guys who are available. Particularly, I think Evan Ingram is very likely to get cut from the Jacksonville Jaguars. This has been it's probably the number one topic of contention amongst best ball big board virgins right now. Who is Evan Ingram going to play for?
I took him and was talking about him on the Jags, and boy, did I get put in my place.
I was going to say, dude, you can't. These people who are already 50 big boards in, man, they are ready to correct you on every assumption you've made about the 2025-2026 NFL season. But it's a real 50-50 because the Jaguars can save considerable but not franchise changing amount of money cutting him. But then you have to ask yourself, okay, who are they cutting? What are they doing with the money? They already have Gabe Davis is under contract. Christian Kirk is under contract. Brian Thomas Jr. is under contract. Brenton Strange is under contract. So it's not a pass catcher thing. Who's the big free agent who's coming to Jacksonville? Okay, they got their quarterback under contract. And the other thing that is always so neglected in all of this is NFL restructures are very common, especially if the guy's about to get cut and he likes playing there. It's like, oh, Evan Ingram, I like playing with Trevor Lawrence. I want to see what he'd probably be pretty willing to restructure as opposed to just getting outright cut.
I like the Jaguars pieces in drafts, especially without Ingram. But I mean, you mentioned Kirk. You're right. 13 million dead cap. He had a collarbone injury. Like, he's not old or anything. The backs are okay. Davis is there. They got nothing the first year. But if I were Lawrence, and I don't know, I'm not talking about friendships or whatever, Ingram, I think, holds him back. And he's at a point in his career where it's like, all right, am I going to be good at this? Am I going to be traded? Like, am I a bust? What is going to happen? If I were his best friend, to be like, enough with the tight end, like, let's go. And so I think with Cohen, there's potential for that to, I mean, maybe not be elite, but a lot better than what you have to pay for in these drafts.
100%. I think the Jaguars could very easily be the Buccaneers last year, the Seahawks the year before, just the offense that goes ascends 3 levels up from where they were the season before.
And I would say too, if you think that Evan Ingram is gone, you should be slamming Christian Kirk in
slamming. Yes.
Yeah.
Wide receiver 61. Yeah.
Yeah.
Which is likely. Right.
Because I think Ingram's a value, even if he stays there, just kind of with the personnel, and they kind of just run it back. And then it's almost like the Gesicki thing, right? Just a few rounds earlier, where it's Gesicki could get there for sure if T stays, but it's probably a huge windfall if T leaves. So I still like taking Ingram, even after I learned today he might not be Cohen.
He and Kincaid are 1 spot away in ADP, tight end 13 and 14. And then Isaiah Likely is tight end 15, and I think that's interesting.
That's another one where everyone has already cut Mark Andrews, but they save about $750,000. It's nothing. The only reason, literally, the thought process is this guy's getting cut because he dropped a 2-point conversion. I mean, it's just not any more in depth or in thought than that. It's Mark Andrews is getting cut because he's 29 years old and he dropped the 2-point conversion.
And look, he came out and he apologized, and I forgave him.
And I said sorry.
Yeah, if he didn't apologize, he's off my board. But he seemed contrite, and I think we're ready to go.
His foundation got a lot of love from the Bills community, which is what we do every time Andy Dalton, anything that ever happens on another team where Buffalo's involved, we flood their inbox with donations, which is great. So tight end 6, Andrews.
So we started this with the Noah Gray stuff, but Davis, on screen here, we have the Chiefs prices. Are any of these good picks right now on screen?
No. No. And in fact, of the people on the screen right now, maybe only one of them will be a starting Chiefs player next year. Kelsey might retire. Hunt, I assume, is just out of the NFL. Pacheco is
whatever.
He's a 7th round rookie, 7th round guy from Rutgers who was good, who broke his leg and was actively killing the team in their postseason run, was actively their worst player. And then Hopkins, I assume, will be cut. Let's see if I get. Are they going to give me the premium paywall? Okay, Hopkins can be cut. No, Hopkins is an unrestricted free agent. Yeah, he's done.
He's up.
Yeah, it's done. It's over. So he won't be back either. They would rather have Juju Smith-Schuster than DeAndre Hopkins, and I think that is pretty clear. What would the team friendly deal that Hopkins could take? They paid him $600,000 last year after a restructure. Hard to get more team friendly than that. And they didn't want to give him the ball. I guess he did score a touchdown in the Super Bowl, so shout out to him. But I would guess one of the self-scouting things that Veach and Reed might do is this strategy of employing only men over the age of 30 is not working for our offense.
Well, it's so funny because it's the Chiefs have done a polarizing thing, or at least how they've approached wide receiver. It's either get the dustiest veterans or just absolutely fucking nail these rookies in the middle part of the draft, or obviously Xavier was earlier, and then fucking slow play the powder keg of talent that's just right under your nose.
Got to get Justin Watson his reps, man. You got to get Justin Watson his reps.
Yeah, it is there was, it is kind of fun to envision if there was a scenario where Travis Kelce hadn't fallen off the age cliff, and it was you have peak Kelce with Xavier Worthy and Rashee Rice. That's the scariest offense to ever set foot in football.
Could have been.
Do you think he retires?
Could have been fun.
I do.
Yeah, the way he was talking on the most recent New Heights or whatever. I mean, I don't listen to it, but those clips always go viral. Did not sound like a guy who's super interested in coming. He's I got to think about it. I got to spend. Basically, he sounded like his brother before his brother retired.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. They knew when Jason Kelce and the Eagles lost to Tampa, he's crying on the bench. He's hugging at all the coaches. Everybody thought that was it. And then some time went by and he did that instead. It wasn't immediate. And then it was okay. And there's just every reason to think Travis Kelce, this is the time.
And I do think literally having your brother just go through all that. You talk to him all the time. You have a massive podcast. You're dating the biggest celebrity in the world. You've accomplished about all there is to accomplish in football. I think you're probably good. Staring down the barrel of another year of load management during the regular season, the AFC getting tougher. That doesn't really sound like a fun thing.
No, you do look up to Big Bro, just like Brady Kachuk, Pete, on Saturday night in Montreal.
Oh my God, what a game! What a game that was, Mike. That was a game.
Pete's not. I thought Pete would be there today. I thought last minute he'd be I'm going to TD Bank Center Garden.
Is that where? Is it down the road from me? Wow.
1:00 is Finland, Canada. 8 is Sweden, US. And there's a chance that US can dictate who they want to play by, how they do tonight. So it's not. They only had so much time to cram this thing in, but it was a pretty good stuff on Saturday.
All of this is at TD Garden. We got to wrap up the show, guys. I'm going to head down and see if I can scalp some tickets and watch some hockey here.
Get to the finals on Thursday.
It can't even be that much to get in.
Get to the finals on Thursday could be pretty good.
Yes, finals on Thursday will be expensive. Finland, no one cares.
So biggest fallers among the non-Chiefs. Thank you, Zach. Woody Marks, Travis Hunter, Taysom Hill. Have these names ever been put together for any reason before in human history? But Davis, tell us about Woody Marks, running back, and what's happening with his AP. That makes sense.
I mean, he stinks. It's just he stinks. It's the funniest thing that effectively the opening default rankings in the big board are not 1-to-1 Hayden's rankings or projections, but I believe they are loosely based off of Hayden's projections or rankings. Hayden obviously went to USC. Woody Marks was, I think, the running back 45 at 140th overall or something, which is just hilarious. It's this great running back class. Woody Marks is a 23-year-old who sucked and only caught passes, never broke 0 tackles in college. WFN Warehouse is just lying. He is like the opposite of a tough runner. He would just get hit and then just immediately get sat down. He's like no different than guys like Donovan Edwards, the pass catching back from Michigan. So it's just very funny to see him cascade. Like no top 100 big prospect thing has him in the top, like Dane Brugler, McShay. None of them have him in the top 100. He's like a locked in round 5, round 6 pick. So that's what's going on with Woody Marks. It's just very funny because, again, only the sickest degenerate virgins on the internet know about this hyper specific Hayden Winks bias that is influencing the ADP. It's so funny.
It is funny too, because like you already mentioned, there are some players whose ADP, like the Amari and the Hopkins, that is just static because there are like just auto drafters or people just drafting off ADP. So those will always stay there. But like it does take like a pretty good market correction to actually push someone down right now.
Yes. Yeah. Like, well, the thing would be is that he's not ranked by legendary upside. He's not ranked by ETR, and I don't have him in my rankings either. So anyone who's using any rankings is getting 0 of Woody Marks.
All right. There you go. Travis Hunter, though, Mike, this is maybe a more familiar name. I assume this is people reacting to the news that he was going to be listed as a DB at the Combine.
100%. Yeah.
Oh,
I remember he just DM'd me. His internet went out. I think he's hot spotting on his phone. Yeah, basically it was like kind of like this should have been priced in anyways, because he was always gonna be a corner first. And then at the same time that went out, though, like literally the same time, Jay Jones 9, who's like a big NFL reporter, tweeted at the same time. He's like, he is gonna also do wide receiver drills. And like Travis Hunter is not going to do shit at the Combine anyway. He's not running the 40. He's not bench pressing. He's not running. Guys who are going to be top 5 picks do not do the drills. They never do anymore. Travis Hunter's not doing the drills. So,
right. I do think it just speaks to how on edge everyone is about what's going to happen, right? And people are going to react to every single little bit of news, because I think you can argue, like, so this ADP, right, he dropped from 122 or 116 to 122. I think you could argue if Travis Hunter exclusively played wide receiver and is a top 5 pick, he is the best pick in the entire big board. Like not even close at 122 if he exclusively plays wide receiver. Yep. And if he like plays 80% DB and just a few gadget snaps at wide receiver, he's arguably one of the worst picks in the entire big board at this cost. So it makes sense to me that the market is going to wildly react to every single breadcrumb we get between now and the start of the season.
I would say the breadcrumbs have actually not been that bad. The breadcrumb, my projection for Travis Hunter is he is a nickel corner. So he plays about 70% of the snaps on defense, and he plays about 20% of the snaps on offense, but they're good snaps. They're only third downs. They're 2-minute drill, fourth quarter if the team's down. He's getting, like, his targets per route run is going to be Kevontae Turpin-esque. Like, Kevontae Turpin's role, but as one of the best athletes you've ever seen in your life. What do you
wanted to get cheap for Travis Hunter, keep the Kevontae Turpin comps.
Turpin-esque is good. I mean, that's good for him all day.
Kevontae Turpin is like a shitty guy who had a domestic abuse charge at TCU and like never started in college. Travis Hunter won the Bolitnikoff. So how do you value a guy like, okay, let's back up. If Brian Thomas Jr. played 30% of the snaps for the Jaguars, where are you taking him?
Hang on, which 30% in what direction?
He's getting about 30% of the snaps. Brian Thomas Jr. is playing about 30% of the snaps.
Round 14.
Yeah, like round 14, round 15.
Too low.
So it's not that far off. I don't think. No, I think realistically, it's not that far off.
It's like a 3-leg parlay because he also has to be good. We're all taking that for granted. We've seen plenty of, like he has to be really good. Then the efficiency hits, like all of that. It's a multi-leg parlay.
Where do we think he's going? Where do you think he's going, Hunter? Like 5? New England.
Everyone
4 or
walks into
5?
Cleveland, or at least that's where I keep seeing.
Cleveland's going to take Ward. I think whoever takes Hunter likely trades up for him
To 1?
just wherever, because Corain made this point, and I've held it near and dear because it's 1 billion% accurate. The GM who takes him is going to have really high job security because there is no way for Travis Hunter to make the fans happy. There is no career in which he makes the fans of the team. He'd either have to be the best corner you've ever seen, a Revis, Patrick Surtain level shutdown, dominating corner, or this incredible wide receiver. But the most likely thing is probably that he'll be an okay corner and then have some fun stuff on offense every once in a while.
Davis, I'll stay right where I was for the last month. He's going to Jacksonville. I mean, they really don't need the receiver. They can kind of get away with. He's just going to Jacksonville at 5.
I think that works because then he can kind of rotate out on the Christian Kirk stuff. He can, that kind of works. I kind of like it for offense. I think
that would be again another. I think the market would probably get pretty excited about that spot.
Yeah, I think so. I think as well.
What's going on with this Taysom Hill fall? Where are all the Taysom Hill slappies, Davis?
So I've tracked this pretty closely, as you can imagine. I cannot find where this rumor came from. No one's putting their name on it. What's Silva's boy? Underhill has not put his name on this yet. Mike Triplett has not put his name on this yet. The Taysom Hill is unlikely to return to the Saints with Kellen Moore there. The big issue, I'd have 100% Taysom Hill. The big issue is he's a 34-year-old who just had a catastrophic season-ending knee injury. I believe ACL and MCL. So it's just not great.
No. So we're not quite yet to the conversation about where we list Taysom Hill. We're more just sort of like, where is he going? Is he going to
Well, they finally did get it right. They finally did just list him as a tight end, which is obviously.
And now no one wants it. They finally gave the people what they want.
I guess he does some of that. Moving on, we've got two-way players, everybody. And this is quite a list. Speaking of 3 men who've never been in my kitchen or named together, Hunter Sionvaki, Davis, that one's for you. And, of course, Bronco Nagurski.
A legend, Bronco Nagurski, man.
I don't have any leather helmets, but what a collection.
If Bronco Nagurski was in this draft class, there was an elite tight end prospect name.
Round 14.
The name premium you would have to pay on that guy, it'd be like a 2.5 round premium just
2.5 rounds. Yeah.
Bronco with a K is the most hard badass thing I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah. But I actually knew this name somehow. I don't know why I know who this is. He must have been in one of those books you read about football from the public library.
How do you forget it?
Well, how about this guy?
Bronco Nagurski.
Yeah. Two-way is selling this guy short, and this isn't me from a wealth of knowledge. I'm looking this up right now. Played fullback and defensive tackle. He was also a successful professional wrestler recognized as a multi-time world heavyweight champion. This guy was a 3-way athlete, baby.
Wow.
Also Canadian.
There you go.
Also a Canadian. I believe he also joined the United States Army as a Canadian.
This would be Trump's favorite player, Canadian-born guy who assimilates to the United States Army.
This is back when men were men. Really, is what we're saying. This is when men were men. Yes, it is a collegiate award. Yeah, Bronco Nagurski, a staple of every football history book from the 90s. Dude. Look at the size of that guy's traps, dude. My God. He looks better than some bodybuilders now. Look at that jaw.
This is like the original photo for the meme of men, why can't you look like this? It's just this is the most manly man I've ever seen.
I'm gonna put this guy's like 75 years old in that meme, and this is look at what you could look like at 75.
Incredible.
So good. All right.
How about the size of the football in this picture, by the way? That's a giant football I used to play with.
It's bigger than Xavier Worthy.
Yeah.
No stripes.
The real deflate gate was the ball getting smaller year after year since the early 1900s.
No one even noticed. No one even noticed. All right, boys. So you guys have to leave?
No.
Okay. Year 2 running backs. So last year, what do we have? We had Jonathan Brooks, first running back picked, mid-second. Yikes. Benson in round 3. And was that not it for running backs the first
Quorum.
2 days of the quorum? Okay. First 2 days of the draft, it wasn't much. Here are Bucky, Irving, and Tyrone Tracy, who both were very good. In Irving's case, I mean, outstanding. And here are your hits from year 2 running backs. Otherwise, it was pretty gross. I know I take my cues from you guys, and you want to be drafting these rookie running backs. We don't know landing spot. We just know that the crop of free agents were old. Henry, Mixon, Jacobs. Is he good? You had Kamara and Connor, and everybody knows the names. There should be opportunities for some of these younger running backs to fit in and do well. It didn't really happen. Other than these 2, Giants were open, and the Bucks with Rachaad White, who nobody liked for his efficiency. Irving gives you a very nice year, great dynasty asset. So is there an overall lesson from last year?
The lesson is a scattershot approach is going to be better than honing in on one guy. I had 85% of Braylon Allen in the big board last year. Felt like a fucking genius after that 2 touchdown game. It's like, this guy's so good, can't even be contained. And then, it's week 9, and all of a sudden Isaiah Davis is playing on their downs. Although famously, Tyrone Tracy was not available in the big board. It was not in the player pool for the big board last year.
But let me fine tune Davis's screener, because I do think there's a theme with both of these guys, right? And Braylon Allen, we can lump him in talent-wise with them, but what he didn't have was a clear path to taking over a backfield. Like, the impediment of Breece Hall is much, much greater than Rachaad White or Devin Singletary. So to me, like, if you want to tilt your exposures to the 1B rookie backs, and this is obviously post-NFL draft, doesn't really help us out now, but who face lesser competition, I do think you want to skew your bets heavier in that direction. And then, to Davis's point, be more have more humility when it comes to the Blake Corums and the Braylon Allens of the world, being like, yeah, they have awesome contingent upside, but the path to them just taking it over outright is probably pretty thin.
Yeah. The other thing is, we do this mental math of like, oh, the starter gets hurt and I hit the jackpot. But then you also might have situations where the starter gets hurt for like 3 weeks and you hit a small jackpot, but you do not actually Braylon last year for like 3 weeks, they were like, all right, this is just a timeshare. Right. And then they were like, well, the other guy's Breece Hall, so maybe it's not a timeshare. So let's scale that back a little bit. Or like, you could set your watch by it every Sunday at about 3:37 p.m. Central Time. The Rams would be coming up for their 3rd drive of the game. And Blake Corum would get the first carry on that drive. And everyone at Fantasy, is Kyron hurt? Go to Ship Chasing Discord. Dude, where's Kyron? Is Kyron benched? You
just can't. You can't account for sometimes how dysfunctional the teams are. I mean, the Jets had a coaching change mid-season. They could have been trying anything. It could have been Rodgers' will over a lot of that. So
100%.
It was predictable. I mean, you could have predicted that would happen with the Jets, making them sort of an avoid in all cases. But sometimes you can't know.
That is my favorite genre of sweaty fantasy football. It's like Brock Bowers could play like 100% of snaps, and he takes like 1 snap off to like get a sip of Gatorade. And he's like,
who does he bench?
Did Brock Bowers' leg fall off? Like, what the fuck? It's just like, dude, he's just grabbing the inhaler for like 2 seconds. Relax.
Another interesting thing about
I could be guilty of that,
because it's so binary, is there are actually way more year 1 no points, year 2 smashes than you'd think. Because I've been running this filter thinking about Trey Benson and Blake Corum on StatHead. But like last 15 years, running backs, 3rd round picks, less than 300 scrimmage yards in year 1. It's like James Conner, Kenyon Drake, and 2 other guys who were like clear hits that I can't remember. But basically, I don't think Corum and Benson are dead at all.
I'm giving Pete.
No.
I'm trying to give Pete the. There we go. The line judge, like they do now. Instead of bringing the chains out, the line judge just sort of points first down. Let's keep the game going. Here's our next slide where you see a couple of those names: Benson, Corum, Jalen Wright, Shipley. I know Pete, you just took him late in your draft this morning. Audric Estime. Wright is interesting to me. I've got Mike McDaniel. I've got Mostert out of the picture. Is he good enough though? That's, I think, a lot. Well, as I say that, I want to also say, does it matter how good he is? I guess it matters on some level. He has to get the coach's respect. But Wright, of these five, Wright and Estime are the two I'm drafting the most.
Yeah. Oh, I just noticed Davis took off here for a sec.
I had to pee
I'm
so bad.
Because I do think that's the thing, right? Like, you don't want to bury anyone who is just buried necessarily for like depth chart purposes and were blocked by a better back. Like, I'm not going to, ding Trey Benson for not being able to usurp James Conner. James Conner was awesome last year, like the Rams absolutely love Kyron Williams. Like, I'm not going to knock Blake Corum for not wrestling away that backfield. So I guess of these guys, are there any of them who you do actually have concerns about their talent?
Well, Estime is the one of these five who did not have that particular challenge. I mean, Barkley, of course, and Achane, you have four of the most productive running backs in the league ahead of these first four guys, but Denver did not have that. And who knows with Denver?
Estime was a healthy scratch for Tyler Beatty in the playoff game.
Yeah.
So, but again, it's Sean Payton. So who knows? Audric Estime could get 300 touches this year.
That was a style thing, right? That they reportedly wanted for Buffalo. Didn't end up mattering, but
Sean Payton literally thinks there's a rule where you can't have a running back play back-to-back snaps. He like plays the floor is lava with his running backs. Like, you watch that game against the Bills in the playoffs, he would not let any of these guys get into rhythm, even have a series, much less like back-to-back carries. Like, his running back usage is just completely borked.
Well, that doesn't help us for next year.
Well, what if it won't be borked? What if he gets Ashton Genty? That's been the rumor. The rumor has been that Peyton really wants him, and Cecil Lammey, obviously, who we all have our own spotted history with Cecil Lammey Broncos supports. But
do we?
If you've been doing this as nerdy and as long as I have, you'll all have your. I mean, it's so funny because we all have these opinions of teams beat writers based on really on how good or bad we ran with their decision. That's really all it is. But Cecil has been tweeting that they really want Genty, and I think Rusty Shackelford is right. I think Peyton did totally want to play Javonte, but he just couldn't do it.
Denver picks 20th. I don't know. I mean, when Davis goes to the bathroom, he leaves his internet connection on. I just decided to go black, so whatever. Okay. 20th pick for the Broncos. Sounds to me like Genty will be gone. They'll have to make a move to get him. Agree?
Yes. Yeah. Probably to get to 11.
Ahead of Dallas.
And I mean, that would just like trading up for running back into the first
Worked
round.
out for the Lions, dude. Maybe learn ball, Peter. Maybe learn ball. Trade up for a running back. Trade up for an inside linebacker. Your positional allocations don't matter. This isn't fantasy football. I need guys who can win in the trenches.
Counterpoint, Jahmyr Gibbs had like the game of his life in that game, and the Lions got bounced from the playoffs by the fucking 8th seed.
Whatever Denver was, they would consider it a success. So generally speaking, expect more of it, I think, from Denver.
I will say too, like, I assume next week when you guys do this show, Jalen Wright's going to show up on the risers chart just by necessity out of the Mostert cut.
Do we like him? I like him. I liked him a lot a year ago.
Yeah.
I didn't really like him as a prospect, and I don't really like him now, I think.
Yeah, I think at these prices, though, like getting a stat, like, because obviously they'll probably bring in a third back. They seem to kind of like that as part of their rotation. They did it with Jeff Wilson before, but you are essentially getting like the presumed 1B back here at like nearly priced, I think, close to his downside. I guess maybe the true downside is they draft like a running back in round 2 or 3, and he's just relegated to RB3 and he's a total 0. I guess maybe that's the true downside.
Abanikanda.
Well, it's also
They
like
bring in
no one.
else.
Yeah.
They could bring in Abanikanda because Abanikanda fits into the point I was about to make, which is that Jalen Wright is a poor style fit, I believe, for the one cut and go. He kind of likes to juke and jive and find his, and they're just, I mean, how many times have we seen this with the Shanahan West Coast zone blocking stuff? Dameon Pierce smashes year 1. Bobby Slowick comes in. He can't figure out the blocking. He gets replaced by Daria Ogunbowale. It's just what happens, man. If you don't get the scheme, you're just not going to get the free yards that the offense generates for you.
I just want to say, at the risk of being self-indulgent here, I love this chart. So 2025 ADP. All right, here are some late round guys, some values. Games. Oh, they all played all the time as rookies. Fantasy points per game. 3.4, 2, 1.7, 1.1, 2.6. It kind of all sounds the same, but not. Yards after contact, broken tackle. Now we're going to get I love this chart. We're going to get granular on 1.7 yards points per game rather, but broken tackle 20%. Like, this is the good stuff.
Well, and honestly, like these back-to-back slides kind of like illustrate the entire point on taking these rookie running backs, right? The majority of them are going to be these guys that average 2.3 points a game, that do nothing for you. But there's going to be a couple massive league-winning hits. Like Bucky Irving absolutely scorched the fantasy landscape, and you got to crack a few eggs, some Audric Estimes, to land a Bucky Irving omelet. That's just how it goes in these.
Plus, the next slide is some more of these players. Ray Davis, Isaac Guerrero, Braylon Allen, there he is, Davis, and then Isaiah Davis, also a Jet. Similarly to the last group when it comes to ADP, also played all the time last year, gave you a little bit more fantasy points per game. Davis, so we have James Cook, who's making a production out of wanting $15 million a season for the Bills. He won't get it. I think it's highly likely that there's a 3 or 4 year contract extension for him next year at a pretty good the kind of money that, because it's a running back, will mostly scoff at. But I mean, 16 touchdowns by no question. Was it a successful year for him? And he's still young, 3 years in. Where does that leave Davis, Ray Davis?
High, right? Because Ty Johnson probably will not be back. I mean, maybe he does just want to resign for the veteran minimum because they like him, he likes them, whatever, it's possible, but like also maybe not. Like your third running back, not a high priority. There's plenty of UDFAs that will give you the same production. I think I probably should be a little bit higher because there certainly are non-zero chances where James Cook actually does just say, I would like to get paid and you're not going to pay me, so I'm out.
And the thing about Ray Davis that, going back to his prospect profile, right? Like he's not explosive as Bucky, but what he can do is he can do it all.
He's a
just
dog.
Massively productive at like every, what did he go to 4 different universities and put up over 1,000 scrimmage yards? Like, man, I think he could be just like a sneaky league winner in those scenarios. And at the very worst, like Davis says, if he takes over the Ty Johnson role, we already know that's extremely valuable in this offense as well. Yeah, he seems like a really nice pick at this price.
100%.
He is barely younger than Cook, by the way, as I just go to Pro Football Reference to check that and realize that I'm on Bronco Nagurski's page.
They're 2 months apart, I believe, which is just
Bronco Nagurski and Ray Davis.
Yes.
So,
I like Davis too.
One.
Cook, by the way, did what he did this year on 47% of the snaps for the Bills. Like, just what an inside-out season that was with all the touchdowns. With Allen getting another dozen or so by himself again, they ran for 30 touchdowns, the Bills. So I think Davis is trending up. I think Johnson could be back. He made some big plays in the passing game for them. So unless he can get a better deal somewhere else, I'd expect him here.
What do you think about these other guys? Grendo, it's always tough to me when we see the guy get the crack and it like, was it, what you want it to be, wasn't catching a lot of passes, didn't look as explosive really as like even Jordan Mason when he had the crack at it. Like, how do you guys handle the Guerrero spot?
Well, Guerrero got used more in the passing game than Mason did, which I did think was a little bit interesting. My opinion is that the 49ers handcuff running back is probably not on the roster. It's probably it's probably some rookie that Kyle Shanahan is in a dark room watching film right now, and he's like, I'm trading up to get that guy with one of my 19 compensatory third-round picks. Has there ever been a draft that Kyle Shanahan has not taken a running back? Truly. I think the answer is literally no. I believe there has never been one where he's not taken a running back. And Guerrero and Mason are like super Jags.
I agree with that. We had it with Sermon with TDP, right? And then Mason and like last year, I got to a good number in Best Ball Mania on Mason, but it didn't start until like August 1st.
Right.
So who was talking about Jordan Mason until training camp, really? And Guerrero, he was a rookie, so there was some hype for him, a little bit more. And then Elijah Williams, right? Elijah Mitchell.
Yeah. Season-ending injury.
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be on any of the Niner backups, the current backups.
Yeah.
All right, Davis, as the world's biggest Braylon Allen fan, how often have you been drafting him in the big board here at this price of 175?
More than the field. Yeah, I've got a lot of him because I think the Isaiah Davis stuff can just be explained by like end of the year weirdness. And like Isaiah Davis, I actually liked him as a prospect too. So I maybe as much as someone who is not super into rookies I'm not dinging Braylon Allen for Isaiah Davis getting on the field. In fact, I think it's probably more of a ding at Mr. Breece Hall, who famously still has not had 1,000 yards rushing in the NFL. Just has that zero line.
Wow. And if Pat was here, he could defend his boy, but I'm not Pat, so I'll let that slander slide.
Yeah. I think Braylon Allen is probably just a very good handcuff running back. Just like if Breece I don't think he is going to earn significant timeshare from Breece Hall, particularly because I don't expect the offense to be that good unless they pull off something that I can't foresee for a quarterback. Maybe if Matt Stafford is the quarterback of the Jets, sure, then maybe Braylon Allen could earn. And I also, it's February 17th, so I am not super well researched into who is calling plays for the Jets and their play calling splits at running back or anything. But I'll put it this way: if Braylon Allen, if the Cowboys traded a 3rd-round pick for Braylon Allen this offseason, I'd be taking him in the 3rd round. So that is how good I think he is.
Yeah, I mean, these prices were in such kind of flyer territory that it's hard to like say anything super bad about these guys. And Braylon Allen, flashed when he did get opportunities. So, I mean, taking stabs at an ambiguous backfield, even though the team situation looks pretty dire right now.
Pretty ambiguous.
Seems fine, especially because they might have no choice but to run the ball every single play next year.
The question is, any of these guys, we're already to 9 or 10 year 2 running backs. There's also Kendre Miller, these guys versus rookies. And I think there's sort of a macro question about what we think the appetite will be for the rookie running backs versus, some of these guys. The San Francisco example might be a good one. And I know they have the history, the tradition that they have, but is a team going to be, Guerrero or DJ Giddens or one of these other rookies? I guess you want to always sprinkle in both, but that was my thinking with this topic was, are they mostly dead? I mean, Marshawn Lloyd is on the next slide, and I don't know. I mean, that just went so badly. Green Bay was supposed to be a team that rotated running backs, and
they were making up injuries for Marshawn Lloyd. Just like this dude got appendicitis, like crazy.
So, yeah. I mean, do we generally want 7 out of 10 times rookies over this group? I mean, I know every case is different.
Well, yeah, and it goes back into, from my perspective, I think it is harder to nail the Chuba Hubbard, the veteran who's underpriced, who just absolutely smashes, than the rookie who, provides a windfall. Like, just for me, I think it's easier to identify those rookies and play those situations than to step on all of the landmines of the dusty guys who you're buying volume that never actually pans out. maybe that's a leak in my game, but I just find it easier to default to the rookies in that range. And I think if you just blindly took the rookies after pick 150 over the vets, like you'll probably come out ahead in the long run.
Well, because the vets are not going to give you, there's not a scenario where Marshawn Lloyd can end up being an 8th round pick. But if LaQuint Allen is a 2nd round pick to the Cowboys and they don't take Genty, or a 2nd round pick to the Chargers, I mean, you are talking like some of these guys who are maybe undrafted right now could legit be 3-4 turn picks in Best Ball Mania or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
So you have to balance out like, well, Brashard Smith might be a 0, or he might be the new Travis Etienne for the Jaguars. Like it just and it's a hard thing to balance, obviously.
I learned on. Go ahead, Pete. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just gonna say, yeah, like the CLV that you can get on these rookies is just insane relative to the veterans.
Yeah.
Closing
100%.
line value. All right. I learned on Saturday that Brashard Smith is a Stephanie Miller guy. As
Used to be a wide receiver.
Stephanie was up in the Buffalo area for our 9th annual February fixed draft. I can't say my friends and I invented the concept of drafting for next year, around the Super Bowl, but we've been doing it for 9 years, and lovely to see Stephanie attend. I'm not sure she had any particular reason for doing it. Just decided to fly up from Texas to be a part of our festivities. 14,
it's a wonderful time of year to visit Buffalo. I mean, you would want to visit in the middle of
It's
February.
so nice.
It is, when the slush on the street as you park your car for the draft never really comes out of your shoe. It's just always, your feet are always cold from walking outside. But 14 teams, super flex, tight end premium, big bash. We do 6 if anybody's interested in a league like this. It's really fun. 18 rounds. It gets pretty sloppy, just like the slush. And then 6 rounds supplemental in July. So you end up with 24 players, and in July it'll make a little bit more sense. A little bit of both, Best Ball Mania and Big Board.
Hopefully.
Hopefully.
Could someone in the chat, the devs have been working hard between the scenes. I just made the Shope face an emoji for YouTube members. Can someone see if that took effect here? And can we get some Shope faces in the chat here?
Today's, not the other one?
I did today's. Yeah, today's is way better than the one you wanted. That's kind of how it always works in life.
That's how it, That's how it
Yeah.
has to be. Yeah, I guess. Well, at least I started a conversation.
Well, so real quick on this. So on the screen, we got, the Marshawn Lloyd, Jonathan Brooks. Is Jonathan Brooks draftable?
No, he's not. He's not going to play, man. I've been saying he is more likely to be never play another down of NFL football than to playing this season.
So do you think, how are you viewing Chuba then through that lens? Obviously they're going to add somebody. What do you think they do? Do you think they invest significantly again?
It's that's the problem to me, is that this clearly feels like a regime that is like values the running back position. They just got this great season out of Hubbard, and they said, what let's spend a 2nd round pick on Jonathan Brooks. I would compare it to how the Rams took, I always forget the order. Was it Henderson first or then Akers? But they took them back-to-back years in the 2nd round, and then they took Kyron in the 3rd round, and then they took Blake Corum in the 3rd round. I would view it similarly to that. Like, I think the Hubbard coming in and handling 80% of the running back touches, I think is unlikely.
Buffalo, similar. Singletary in 3, then Moss in 3, then Cook at the end of 2, basically the same. Just keep.
Yeah.
I don't mind that. I mean, I never want to draft running backs by day 2 generally, but that's not terrible.
They could do Rico Dowdle, 2 years, $16 million, LaQuint Allen, round 4, and that would be enough for me to I don't know if I love Hubbard here.
Yeah.
I like him. I mean, he's kind of by ADP so far on Big Board by himself at the end of 4. And so you're drafting Chase, that's maybe a little bit of not a Hail Mary, but nice to get Hubbard there. I think that's okay. I'd rather have Hubbard than Mixon, who goes before him.
See, I'd rather have Mixon.
You would?
Yeah.
But you're my guy here. didn't we all, even as we were getting crushed all season by these veteran running backs, didn't we feel like we knew not to go back to it the next year?
Well, it doesn't matter if it works or if it doesn't, but I think Joe Mixon is likely to get more carries and particularly more goal line stuff. Like the Texans offense will just be better. I'm not like 100% bought in on the Bryce Young, Steph Curry celebration resurgence,
Running back 14 is Kyren Williams at ADP 34, so late third. Kamara is 17 at pick 56, so getting toward the end of round 5. The only two running backs in that span of 2 rounds, almost fully 2 rounds, are Mixon and Hubbard. So interesting for draft strategy that's the case.
Yeah. How many shares of Kamara do you guys have?
A lot.
None.
A lot?
I learned my lesson, man. I'm just done. I'm done. I'm taking the old guys, taking shitty players. Taking shitty old guys was like the meta last year. So to have no shitty old guys feels like a leak.
I generally agree with you. I just I feel like with Kamara, it might be the wrong lesson. Like I agree on like the Mixon stuff, but like Kamara, like legit even saw another worse gear than we had seen from him in previous years down the stretch last year. And didn't you just say Kendra Miller is like one of your most drafted?
Yeah, because the Saints do not have the Saints are one of the teams that if you ranked 1 through 32, who has the least resources to just waste a round 3 pick on a running back. I think the Saints would literally be bottom of the list. They would literally they have no resources, they have no cap. They simply cannot afford to be like, you know what would really work for this team? Dylan Sampson.
They'll do it.
Yeah.
That's what the Saints do, though. They never have resources, and they still do it.
You're so right. You're so right.
Yeah. I mean, I don't even hate playing it both directions either, but man, like paying more for Kamara this year does really feel like paying for last year's production. Like, shouldn't he be the same price? It's like you got baking in some decline that we saw at the end of we saw it play out in the BRs, right? Like he was a legit 101, 102 for a lot of weeks during that stretch. And then it's like slipping and slipping and slipping until you're like, shit, this guy's even overpriced right now.
Yeah. I mean, he is bad and no juice. Like even it's so funny. Go back and watch his game against the Cowboys. He's like slow motion walking into the end zone on some, like he's not good anymore, but Joe Mixon is not good anymore. Joe Mixon was not good last year. I think you could make a pretty convincing argument Derrick Henry was not particularly good last year.
Very good takes at 122.
If you think about Derrick Henry, think about your mental, like my mental image of Derrick Henry is always the Thursday night game against Jacksonville where he was literally like picking defenders up and throwing them on the ground whilst scoring touchdowns. Like Henry kind of just lumbered his way to a bunch of touchdowns,
Kamara, that's his entire career. Lumbering his way to a bunch of touchdowns.
Well, Kamara, why can't Kamara do that? Kellen Moore's new, whatever. Like
Kamara,
I would argue that he lumbered his way to a bunch of receptions. Like that. That's how he was PPR scamming his way up there and getting goal line carries.
Yeah,
Kamara and Olave have almost identical ADP. And
remember when the Saints were scoring 50 points a game for 2 weeks, and Clint Kubiak was the new greatest coach in the NFL?
Yeah. They decided that the things that they were doing that led to that, they should stop doing immediately. So
everyone just died. The whole team just died.
Eventually.
Like their whole offensive line was out.
You know what? So the Saints, if I remember right, 2-0. They blow somebody out. They blow Dallas out. And they go home to the Eagles.
They were favored against the Eagles, and the Eagles needed a crazy Dallas Goedert like screen long run to win the game.
They played Philadelphia. We didn't know what Philadelphia was yet. They were still the team off the late season collapse, and they were favored. Tampa, by the way, this reminds me, beat Washington, Detroit, and Philadelphia in its first 4 games last year. Not bad.
They're a good team.
Yeah,
I like Olave. I know Pete, you and Pat were talking about. Am I keeping you?
No, not at all, bro. Not at all.
You and Pat were talking about Olave. It's the concussions that scares me, but I feel like mid-fifth. Okay.
Yeah. That one I like buying the dip on. He's now lumped into, the song and dance we do with Jalen Waddle, Devontae Smith, T. Higgins, where we kind of like wildly react to how we're feeling about them. But the advantage Olave has on those guys is he doesn't have a number one alpha even, eating into his targets, right? So I
due respect to Shaheed, right? Due respect to
I do have to respect Shaheed now that, Cooter Doodle met him and he signed all 3 of her Shaheed jerseys. So I do need to put some respect on his name for sure. But yeah, that price on Olave seems pretty nice.
Shaheed in round 8.
I'm taking him a lot, but he goes right next to Golden, who is going to be Golden might be like the 9th pick in the NFL draft. People are
really? Wow.
He's going to show up to the combine, weigh 185, run a 4.3 flat, and interview really well because he went to Texas. And people are going to be like, "Wow, I guess we should have gotten woke to this guy earlier."
I want to explain, so I'm sort of chiding Pete almost, not really, but like, do you have to go? Do you have to go? Because I don't have to go. Like the thing I'm even seeing in the chat on your last stream, Shope will get you out in 1 hour. Don't worry about it. You got a marathon day. He'll get you out in 1 hour. Well, I don't know. We don't know if the viewers necessarily want that.
No, first of all, on ADP chasing, they love tangents. I know myself because I'm a viewer. They love going down the rabbit holes, and we're slowly like breaking you, right? You're this. What's the analogy I'm looking for? What is it? The horses that you have to break in. You are a broadcast horse. You have your sensibilities, your ins and outs. So we're going to slowly break you, Corain, Davis, when I hop on myself, and we're going to turn you into a true podcasting bro, where time ceases to exist and you can go down any tangent you want. And no one's going to come and say, "Come on, Mike, we got to get to this next commercial break."
I appreciate that. As long as life does not get in the way, which as it happens in terms of this show, usually like that's when I got to leave for work. But can we get Pat out of bed earlier? I think that's a lot to ask. We can push it another half an hour.
Well, I think on like the actual housekeeping note, I think you guys are going to discuss and we'll talk and figure out. It might not always be at this exact time. Obviously, Davis's streaming schedule, my streaming schedule, trying to figure out what works best for everyone. And I want to get it to where, Mike, you can do longer shows and you don't have a hard out for that kind of stuff. So we'll get to the bottom of that. And as far as today, I'm just doing my marathon day because I'm going to draft with Davis whenever we wrap up here. So we're good, man. I had a clear day and spending it in the content mines with you guys.
I took the week off because my teenage children don't have school for February break.
Yeah.
And brilliantly decided not to plan a trip anywhere. So we got 3 hockey practices, at least lacrosse, different things, friends. I'll be in the slush most of the week up here while all my friends and their kids are in Florida.
Slush, man.
That's the choice. The slush is not it.
It's 4 degrees out here this week.
I was down so bad yesterday because we had all the slush and the sleet and stuff, and my neighbors on February vacation with their family, and he like hits me up and he's like, "My mother-in-law is coming over to feed the cats. Was there any chance you could come and like do snow removal for me?" And he's done a lot of stuff for me, so this was like I had to pay, but I was just like miserable having to snow blow and clear snow and sleet and slush for 2 driveways. Yesterday wasn't exactly how I wanted to spend my first football free Sunday. I
thought maybe we'd get to like DC, 50s, and go as far south as you need to, so where you can wear shorts. But this turned out to not be that week. You're cold. We're in the Midwest, Davis, and they're like 24 in snow on Wednesday in Washington. So there was really no move.
So Mike, what was your favorite pick that you made in your early fantasy draft over the weekend?
Okay, so 14 teams, and we just expanded this year from 12 to 14 with Nick in it and different friends.
14 is tough.
14 is tough and super flex. So we made the decision to go to team QB. I mean, everybody's going to pick 2 and only 2.
That's smart, I think.
That's cool. Yeah.
You take the rookies out of it. and you're just drafting teams. So I picked 11th. We do a random thing where you pick your draft slot. And I picked 11th. And I thought, well, the first 4 quarterbacks, Buffalo, Baltimore, Washington, Philadelphia, could be the first 4 picks. And we'll see. And my plan was the more quarterbacks that get picked in front of me, the better. Because if those 4 are gone, which I would expect to be the case, I'm going to wait all day. So the first 3 picks were Buffalo, Baltimore, Washington, and Hurts fell to 11. So I did that.
Wow.
Yeah, they did maybe the smart thing. I mean, I think Hurts was worth it, but all the Chase, Barkley, Gibbs guys went in that range. We're tight end premium too. Bowers was the 104 in that draft.
Okay.
And that makes sense. The format is exactly the deep end invitational format. So it's 2 quarterbacks and tight end premium. Every 3 receivers start. Try to make it as, reasonable to pick any different position at any time. So I started Hurts and then Neighbors.
Nice. What was your tight end? When did you get an elite tight end?
Goddard for Hurts in 7,
No.
Otten in 9, and
elite tight ends for sure.
Some no name later. Yeah, no, didn't happen. Didn't fall that way for me. The team at 4 went Bowers, Kittle to start.
Where are you guys all at on the Bowers underdog ADP? Too rich, just perfect, or too cheap?
Definition of the 4% exposure blanket, I think. Like it's clearly
too rich.
It's just clearly a preposterous ADP, given that it's likely not going to be a good offense. Like he's got to score a lot of touchdowns, but he is very clearly the best fantasy tight end, and you just do not want to have none of that guy. I'll tell you what, it'll totally change for me in tight end premium though, where 10 for 80 is just a giga smash. Yeah, if it's the thing about Bowers is the touchdown production just based on the offense that he was in and is going to be in. I think is going to be like fairly limited. He scored 5 touchdowns last year. Maybe he gets to 8 this year.
What about you, Mike? You like his price?
I don't feel really differently. I'm on McBride a lot at the end of 2-3 turn.
Yeah.
I think I'd rather do that. And then really it's just pick your favorite, like your flavor after that, the rest of the draft. Like nobody really needs to come in after that, after those 3 guys. Laporta, I mean, all of them. Jonnu Smith goes in the 8th round in big board ahead of Tyler Warren. I mean, just have your favorites, get your stacks, whatever. So, but I think McBride is my favorite tight end pick.
Yeah. I have no problem with the Bowers price, but I get it.
I think Njoku is my favorite tight end pick.
Okay.
That was
tight
the one
10.
that stood out to me, like before the Kelsey slide, where I was like, Travis Kelsey, who's likely to retire, is going before David Njoku right now, which seemed wild to me.
Yeah, like if Kirk Cousins is the quarterback, if Kirk Cousins just turns into Joe Flacco, just like feeding David Njoku tight end screens, it's gonna feed families.
I'm not picking Kelsey at all. Just feel like it's gonna be
taking him a
just
couple times with Mahomes in like round 14 when he's fallen or something.
Because like you can just do the exercise of, okay, say you knew for a fact that Travis Kelsey was going to play this year. He says, I'm coming back or whatever. Like he's going to go back to where he was at like what, pick 100, basically So what are you gaining? You're gaining like 20, 30 picks of value from like round 13 to round 10. I mean, I don't know, like that. Just wait to draft him and avoid the 0 risk and eat the cost of him moving back up to 100.
I think the guys we talked about earlier in that 12th round-ish range at tight end are really a good idea. I mean, Kraft, I think, is a good pick. I think Likely is a good pick. Loveland is a good pick. Ferguson, maybe even Pitts. Certainly Otten. So I want to have, 1 or 2, like I did in that draft we just talked about, 1 or 2 of those guys.
Yeah.
All right.
It is. I think I did. Yeah, I took Loveland in my first draft this morning. Tight end didn't feel as bad to draft as quarterback did. Like you feel like you can get in some bad spots with quarterback, but tight end didn't feel too gross to me.
Where is Pat?
I believe his parents are in town this week. So just taking a little time off, but he's going to be, we'll be back for ship chasing on Thursday. So at our normal time. Also, one other PSA thing I wanted to remember, and this just got posted in the Discord. So we're going to be planning our ship chasing meetup for this year. We've generally kind of just defaulted to doing Vegas right before the season starts, but every year we're trying to get our asses in gear to do something else. And so we got some wheels spinning. Definitely going to give the Discord peeps first crack at kind of letting us know what works for them, what dates. So if you are YouTube members and you're in the Discord, that's now pinned. There's a survey. Shout out Charlie, Line of Scrimmage, for getting that together for us. Going to help organize with that. So if you guys are interested in a ship chasing summer meetup, hop in there, fill out that form, and then we'll have more details in the future for that.
The slush will have melted by then, just so everybody realizes that. And golf with Davis, is that something that is that in the poll? Ooh. St. Louis.
Well, that's going to be the next leg of this enterprise, is seeing if we can convince Davis to leave his house to come meet up with strangers and non-strangers from the internet.
Man, there's going to have to be quite the festivity to get me to leave my house. I'm not going to lie to you guys.
You went to the underdog party with your wife sick to watch the Super Bowl. I feel like there's some hope we can.
10 minutes from my house, brother. Didn't have to get on an airplane to do that. Didn't have to get a sitter for my dog. Didn't have to, schedule out a week of YouTube videos in advance, But I'm definitely not saying no.
Good.
Right. You guys could all come here and we could all golf. I will say that you guys could all come here. There's a couple.
I would love to do a little weekend trip. Go to what do you go to, a Cardinals game or something?
Yep. I'll be there in
whatever.
April.
Yeah,
I'll be there in April, and the Cardinals are home to start the season. So maybe 90%.
Do you golf, Joe?
I do.
Okay, we'll go golf.
This is my driver.
I was like, what is this? Is that what you spank your children with, Mike?
That's very on brand.
How dare you?
Yeah.
How dare you?
Yeah, sorry, no more spanking. All right. So Davis, we're gonna go draft teams.
Yes.
Right now? Let's do it.
Yes, literally right now.
Thank you, guys. Pete, great to be with you here today. Thanks for making this happen. Davis, talk to you next week. Goodbye.